Well, can I thank you for coming along to this Getter session. I don't know if this is your first one that you've joined, whether it's live or whether through watching them on demand through the YouTube playlist that can be found at aka.ms/getter playlist. Let me introduce myself first of all. I'm Paul Watkins. I'm a teacher of ICT and computing at a Microsoft Showcase school in a small village called Port Talbot, a small town in South Wales in the United Kingdom. I am very proud to work at a Microsoft Showcase school, and also I am very, very proud to be recognised as a Skype master teacher. I'm also currently the MIE Fellow, the Microsoft Innovative Educator Fellow for Wales, which means that I'm supporting teachers and schools within the Microsoft education ecosystem, but also those who are outside who are engaging with using Microsoft products, as well as being part of the MIE expert community in the UK as well. And I'm so excited that you've joined me today for something that I am really passionate about, because I have seen the impact that using Skype can have on teaching and learning. And we need to understand, first of all, that the walls of our classroom should never, ever restrict learning. They do, sadly, but they shouldn't. And thanks to technology, and thanks to the internet, and thanks to the invention of webcams, the world has become a smaller place. The world is essentially your classroom. And we will find out as we go through this session together how that is so, and how we can make our classroom a global classroom. But I've got a question for us to think about as we get started. And I want you to think about your pupils. I want you to think about the pupils that you work with. You may be a teacher that has a specific class that you're with every day. Or you may be a teacher in a middle school or high school where pupils follow a timetable of different subjects. Or you may support teachers across a district and go into different schools and work with different classes. But I want to ask you the question, what are your students passionate about? I am sure that if you asked your students what they were passionate about, you would be getting questions to do with gaming and films and music. And I'm sure that a few of them in there would definitely throw in sports and McDonald's and things like that. Some of them may say their friends, spending time with their friends. It's things that they want to do. But as teachers, what do we want our pupils to be passionate about? That's the big question. We want them to be passionate about learning. We want them to be passionate about, selfishly, our subject areas. We know that isn't always going to be the case, but we love pupils to become passionate about those things. Let me just knock that off a second, sorry. And what we find is that through using tools such as Skype in the Classroom, we have a platform that enables pupils to fall in love with learning and fall in love with the world which is often out of their reach. And it is something that has the power to inspire and to raise aspirations and show them things that they did not know, and help them to realize that things that they may have thought were out of their reach or were not possible were now well within their grasp, and it was something that they are capable of doing. And that is what Skype in the Classroom is capable of doing. But what exactly is Skype in the Classroom? I asked the question at the start, and some of you typed in the panel, you're completely new to this. You may have heard of this, but essentially Skype in the Classroom is like the education side of Skype. And for many, many years, Skype in the Classroom has utilized the free consumer Skype, the free Skype app that you would use at home to connect with friends and family. It may be something that you use for business. but it's used that free consumer Skype to provide rich lessons where content can be obtained that is not obtainable in books or on internet websites. It's 100% live. It is not like putting a DVD on or watching an on-demand video where the pupils will sit there, because quite often when a pupil will read a book, when they will access text on a website, when they will watch a DVD, when they will watch a recorded program, when they come away from that, they still have questions that they have not been able to access the answer to, or what they have read have triggered more questions. And what we find is that Skype in the Classroom, through their live experience, is actually providing a platform which is fully interactive. And because it's interactive, where you are able to speak to the person on the other side, it is engaging. And what you actually find is that the pupils who would normally sit at the back of the class, and we all know we've had those pupils, you may even be thinking of them right now, they slowly become the front row. They are the pupils whose hands are up, wanting to ask a question. And they're listening to everything that's been said. And we are seeing these pupils essentially become a sponge and just absorbing everything that they are hearing. They're taking part in the lesson. That's what we want our pupils to be, to develop as individuals. We are finding that it's providing educational experiences that would normally be out of reach. Why? Because it's free. See, often we are restricted due to finance. We can't pay to take our pupils to these places, and in a lot of cases, these pupils can't afford to go to these places. But what we have found is that through Skype in a Classroom, the whole world has opened up. And our pupils can see places that they'd never ever dream of being able to see. Because you are showing them the world, you are nurturing in them global citizenship. Many of our pupils may never travel further than 50 miles from home. But because of Skype in the Classroom, it's actually showing them a world that is out there. And they are learning about it. And actually starting to realize that they're part of something far bigger than they realized. But more than that, it's helping them to realize that they've got a part to play in this world as well. They are able to make friends across the world. And we look at different ways you can do that and the importance of doing it as we go through this session. And I have never come across such a fun way of learning as well. You will see from some of the pictures on here, the children are smiling. The children do not stop talking about these experiences that they've encountered. I have had pupils who maybe 6 years ago experienced a Skype in the Classroom lesson, have left school, and when they come back to visit, they will still say, do you remember when we Skyped to this place? Do you remember when we Skyped to this place? See, we get the children to think not just about Skyping, but also traveling, that we are going to this place and we are going to this place as well. Well, the big question really is, why use Skype in the Classroom? We know what it is, but why should we do it? And really, we have to home in on the impact it can have on the teaching and learning experiences for the children. It enhances and it enriches teaching and learning. Let me give you an example. We had a class in my school that was studying the Arctic. And they could go to books and websites, and they could answer questions on climate change and the impact it's having on the Arctic. But when were those books printed? Was the information in those books still up to date? No, it wasn't. So those pupils connected with an explorer who was actually based at the North Pole, 600 miles from the North Pole. And the pupils were able to ask him not just what are the effects of global warming that you can see that is happening, the impact it's having on the Arctic, but they were able to say to him, where you are right now, what can you see? It was relevant, it was up to date, and those children were able to have these have pieces of information so that they could understand what some of the content they've been reading about meant. They'd been able to read about the temperatures in the Arctic, but when they asked the person how cold it was, he shared with them that the laptop he was using, if he was to step outside into that weather with the laptop would freeze. Straight away, the pupils were able to start imagining what that actually must feel like, because he related it to something that they were familiar with in their computer. It doesn't just help a curriculum and the content of the lessons they learn, but it develops essential life skills. See, we don't know what path these children are going to go down, but it's our job as teachers to help develop the skills that will help them to achieve no matter what path they go down. That's our job as teachers, to make our kids future ready for whatever they face. See, these children need to develop communication skills. They need to develop problem-solving skills. They need to be able to have the ability to work with others, critical thinking. All of those skills will help them in all areas of life. And Skype in the Classroom nurtures those skills. If it didn't, I wouldn't use it. It has the ability to inspire. After a short call with a marine biologist, after a class who'd been studying the coral reefs and had asked this biologist all these questions from his lab in the south of France, one of the girls turned to her teacher and said, I really want to be a marine biologist. She then paused and said, all I need to do now is learn how to swim. We did laugh at what she said, but that girl had been inspired from the meeting with that person. Not only had she gained valuable information that was going to help and improve her work, but it opened her eyes to a job that was out there that she previously hadn't really thought about. But this person inspired her to want to be more than she thought she could be. It raises aspirations, it sparks creativity, and we'll see some of the ways in which creativity can play a part in using Skype in the classroom. It teaches curiosity, or sparks curiosity, where pupils want to know more, and pupils will start to ask the whys, and will go off and research those things as well. It teaches empathy. It helps us to understand other cultures. Why other people do things the way that they do. We had a wonderful Skype call with an actor, a Hollywood actor called Michael Sheen, who comes from Wales. And he shared with the children how he loves traveling the world and working with people from all over the world from different backgrounds. And the advice he gave our children as they were about to start off on a 48-hour journey of Skyping across the world, he told the children to enjoy the things that they have in common with the people they connect with, and to also celebrate each other's differences. See, there isn't a curriculum subject where developing empathy or nurturing empathy is a natural thing. but yet this tool does it. As you said already, it promotes global citizenship, as well as promoting equality. There was a wonderful, wonderful example of when children from the US helped children in one of the African countries to, I believe it was Kenya, who they realized were without water. And the school set about doing a project that would help to provide clean water, looking at a solution for their friends in Kenya, so that they were able to have that water, which meant that they were able to attend school. These children wrote a book, and from that book, the proceeds they invested into providing things called life straws, which then were shipped out to Kenya, to this school, so that the children were able to kind of continue their education. And the company who manufactured this was so impressed with what these children were doing, they offered to help them in providing more. See, these were children who led this. This is the power of Skype in the classroom. And as I said on the first slide, I have to tell you again, it is 100% free. 100% free. We need to help our children realize just how powerful their voice can be. And we need to help them to find it. This is often talked about when using Flipgrid. And Skype in the classroom really goes hand in hand with Flipgrid, where Flipgrid will work asynchronously. Skype in the classroom is that live experience. And we are helping children to become confident in using their voice and helping them to realize, just like those children in Kansas did, that their voice can make a change and it can make a difference, and it is powerful. And this quote here, which I've used many times before, it only takes one voice at the right pitch to start an avalanche. It's reminding our children that they can start that avalanche and they can do good. And even across the world, they have a voice that can impact and enforce change. One of the things that I love the most about Skype in the classroom is its ability to connect classes that are across the world. And one of the great ways of doing this is actually through having cultural exchanges. Through these exchanges, pupils are actually able to give each other language lessons. We've had connections with schools in Italy where they wanted to practice their conversational English. So our pupils would have those conversations with them and would help them with their English as well. Their customs. We've had connections with schools in Egypt who taught us about their pharaohs. We've had schools from across the world share with us their national dress, the instruments that come from their countries, the songs, the dancing. It is a wonderful, wonderful experience. And also the holidays. It's a great time to share things where you can be proud about where you come from and tell the world about it. Within Serbia, there is a small region that has its own language. The problem is with that region that there are more and more people leaving it to seek employment elsewhere. The concern that they have is that in a few generations, their language and their customs will have disappeared because all of the young people are leaving. Where a lot of teachers will use Skype in the classroom to help their pupils learn about the world, this one teacher used Skype in the classroom with her pupils to basically open a door and invite everyone in and teach them about their customs, about their language, and about how proud they are of where they come from. See, when we do this, children from across the world start to realize that where they thought there were so many differences between them, there's actually a lot that's in common. When we connected with this region in Serbia, we asked them if they would be willing to sing us one of their so they got into conversation about songs and what music do you listen to. And we asked them if they'd sing one as a girl with a guitar, if she would sing a song from their region. So the whole class were there and she played the guitar and they sang the song. And with no prompting, my pupils just all started clapping along and they were smiling, listening to them. And without saying anything, the pupils, for the girl playing the guitar, slowly shifted into a song by One Republic. And next thing you know, this class in Serbia and my pupils were singing along together. They were one. I had goosebumps. I had hairs sticking up all my arms, and we still talk about that moment today, myself and the teacher. We've become good friends. But that's the power of Skype in a classroom, in helping pupils to understand each other's cultures. We connected with a school in Moscow, and we played a game which I'm going to share with you in a moment. And at the end of the game, we just let the children talk. And they asked the question about, how do you perceive Russians? When you hear about people from Russia, what do you think? And my pupils, because there was nothing to hold back, they were quite comfortable with each other. They described the Russian as a typical Hollywood villain, maybe the type of the Bond villain, as the big screen has portrayed them. And then they got talking, and they realized that is a false picture. And they started to describe the things they like and what they do and where they hang out. And they realized they liked a lot of the same things and disliked a lot of the same things as well. And that one of the boys actually said, "We're sorry that we thought of you that way." See, and that was within a 45 minute connection. This is the power it has in helping children to fall in love with cultures and different countries from across the world and the people within it. There's a wonderful game called Mystery Skype, which is a great way of developing those important life skills, those essential life skills that our pupils can develop through when you can plan to connect with another class on the other side of the world. You play the yes/no game to try and work out where in the world they are. Take it in turns. Maybe start off with a good old go of rock, paper, scissors to decide who goes first. And whether you're using paper maps or whether you are using digital maps online, yes/no get questions. Let's make the world smaller to narrow it down where they are. Developing communication skills, those critical thinking skills. What should be the next question I ask? That's the information they give us. What should be, what region should we be looking at? As you see from this picture, teamwork plays a big part in it as well. And there's lots of variations you can play on, giving different roles and responsibilities to pupils within your class when you play this game. But you may be thinking, what if I've got a class of pupils that aren't able to access geographical terminology? Well, play Mystery Animal Skype. So for example, my class would pick an animal, the other class would pick an animal, and we play a yes/no game to find out what they are. So you can only ask a question that can be answered yes or no. Now, some teachers will play the game where you are not allowed to make a guess on your final answer within the first 10 questions. If you do, and you get it wrong, you have lost the game. On the website that I show you at the end, there are all the resources there for what you need to get started in playing Mystery Skype, and the guides are all there for you. There are other variations. There's Mystery Person. What about if you found another class in the world who's been also studying Romeo and Juliet, the same as your class, and you can play mystery character. In doing that, you've also got a really fun way of assessing the pupil's knowledge and understanding. Or if you're a maths teacher, why don't you do mystery number? And there's so many different ways of narrowing down and finding that number there using maths terminology. We have got, as I said, wonderful Skype Master teachers across the world. And there's one teacher in particular, Kyle Calderwood in New Jersey, who every year runs the Christmas card exchange, where teachers sign up for it, and then they are paired up with classes from across the world, and those pupils will make Christmas cards and do a card exchange. But then the two classes will connect over Skype. Those classes will share their Christmas traditions, and then they will sing Christmas songs. If there is one which is both familiar to both, they sing it together. Otherwise, they share songs from their regions. What a wonderful way to end that Christmas term before going off on holidays, but celebrating it with people from across the world. And not just having fun, but you're learning as well as you go through it. This is something that is run every single year, and you will see it around about October time on social media. Skype in the Classroom always share this, so look out for the Skype Christmas card exchange. I wonder if you're artistic. A good friend of mine in Kansas runs Squiggles of Awesome every single year. You will see here in the top in this area where we've just got 4 different lines. There's one that looks like waves, there's an arch, there's one that looks like a tail, and then there's the kind of the circular pattern that goes along. And that is there for teachers to download for free. They sign up to it, and then they are able, the pupils can get so creative in converting those lines into a beautiful, beautiful picture. And what we have here are examples of pictures from across the world, from different cultures, from different backgrounds, from pupils of different age, and also pupils of different levels of ability. This bottom one here with the snail and with the home here, that was actually drawn by a beautiful little girl with Down syndrome. See, this is the wonderful thing about Skype in a Classroom. It's for all ages, all areas of the academic curriculum, and for children of all levels of ability. These classes connected with each other then. They were paired up, they connected with each other, and they talked about their inspiration in their pictures. And for many of them, their pictures reflected their culture. So they learned from each other that way as well. And that can be found as well every year. Awesome Squiggles, or Squiggles of Awesome, it may be down as now, and you can find that online as well. And you can actually go back and see the previous years and some of the wonderful artwork that's been produced by pupils from across the world. Good friend of mine and a wonderful, wonderful teacher from Sweden said, when you have friends across the world, it will be far more difficult to start wars. This is why she uses Skype in the Classroom. She wants to educate her children about the world. She wants them to see it. She wants them to see the world that is at present out of reach for them. She wants them to meet those people from across the world. She wants them to learn about their countries, but she wants them to be friends with them. And she wants them to kind of learn from the mistakes of other generations. See, this is something that a lot of teachers hold very close and dear, and it's in their hearts. This is what we want for our pupils. We want them to have those global connections. We want them to have those friends across the world. This is what Skype in the Classroom does. We connected with a school in China for a game of Mystery Skype. And at the end of a 40-minute call, my pupils turned to me and said, when can we Skype with our friends again? See, they recognized them as friends after 40 minutes on that connection. That is the power of Skype in the Classroom. And a quote that has been kind of said, that it was Isaac Newton who made this quote. He said, "We build too many walls and not enough bridges." As teachers, we need to break down the walls of our classrooms, and we need to build bridges out into the world so that our pupils can go out there and they can learn from it, and they can grow to be the people that this world needs. That through doing it, it nurtures those skills they need to be the upright citizens, not just in their local communities, but as part of a global community. And that in the future, they'll be the generation who make positive changes and do great things across our world. We have the opportunity to bring experts into our classroom. Pupils will often ask the question, what's the point in us learning this? But when they've got an expert speaking to them, when they've got an explorer doing a map reading lesson to them, that person's got them right there in the palm of their hand. And they hang off every single word. And all of a sudden, everything is relevant. And the thing is, these experts have the ability to inspire them. And there's different ways in which we can get these experts to engage with our pupils. One of my favourite ways is actually through what we call the virtual field trips. These are live connections that are fully interactive and are some of the most engaging lessons I've ever seen, where pupils have the ability for free to connect with museums from across the world, with national parks, with zoos, with aquariums, and even on expeditions. Pupils have been able to connect with an expedition that has been looking to make it to the summit of Everest, expeditions to South Pole, expeditions to North Pole. All these wonderful experiences where the children can be inspired. Children can learn about different creatures. It was interesting, I was reading about a gentleman who started in the UK something called the Wildlife and Wetlands Trust, where he became a huge worker in the area of conservation. His father was an explorer who was one of the men who raced to the South Pole, to the Antarctic. Scott of the Antarctic was his father. And he wrote home, the last letter he ever wrote home to his wife before he was tragically killed. And he said, make sure the boy falls in love with nature. That was the last thing he ever wrote to his wife, make sure the boy falls in love with nature. Today, he has established conservation sites across the UK and is recognised in the UK as the patron saint of conservation. See, when we connect with these different people through virtual field trips, it has the same power to be able to inspire these children and to visit these zoos. There are children who've seen tigers on the screen who will go home and now say, I've seen a tiger, even though they've never seen one in real life. That's how real the experience is for them. We Skyped with an elephant sanctuary. The children at the end of the call stood at the board and had their photo taken with the elephant. At the end of the call, as they stepped away from the board, the girl's hand was still on the screen, smoothing the trunk of the elephant. As far as she was concerned, she was touching that elephant. These are the experiences that we can have. And for many of us, we're not back in school with our children at the moment, or we have finished for the summer. But these experiences can still be tasted thanks to what Skype in the Classroom are doing with their live events. Last night, there was a live connection that was free for anybody to join with the Intrepid Air and Space Museum in New York, where there was a lesson on journey into space. These run every single Wednesday. If you check the Skype in the Classroom Twitter account at Skype Classroom, you will see the notification there of future ones that are to come. We have had zoos. We have had national parks. My family have sat around with me and got involved with these, and they are wonderful, wonderful experiences. And we'll give you a taste of what these are to be like. Students, so as that's the question, are students joining or sharing devices? These ones, when you're in school, you will sit as a group. You will have it on a big screen. Everyone is together, and it's only you in school that's with the doing the trip. It isn't like a broadcast where there's classes from across the world. This live experience is at this moment because of how we are finding everything. But it'll just be one-to-one. And it would be if you took the kids to the museum, the curator who would take you around, it is that same curator who would be taking you on this virtual field trip as well. So the different types of guest speakers that you have got free access to, you've got scientists, you've got explorers, you've got authors, you've got historians, you've got curators, inspirational speakers, athletes. All of these are freely giving their time so that you are able to have a live connection with them and they can inspire your children. If you are an English teacher and you are getting your children to do story writing, why not have an author connect with them to help them and best practice on how to start a story, how to end a story, how to develop characters. This is what these guest speakers are there for, and they absolutely love connecting with classes as well. Every year, Skype in the Classroom also do broadcasts globally, and children have the opportunity to get involved and ask questions as well. And all the previous ones are actually available for you to watch on demand. We've got conservation sessions about the environment and the next generation of conservationists with Dr. Jane Goodall. We've got Henry Winkler and Lynn Oliver talking about the Hank Zipser series, and really, really heartwarming how Henry Winkler speaks about his how he lives daily with dyslexia, and even with this dyslexia, it's his superpower. And see, hearing it from someone who's so successful as him, and a world-known author, and his books have been made into TV series, that inspires the children as well. What about Cressida Cowell, the author of How to Train Your Dragon? Not just speaking for children about how to write books, how to develop characters, how she came up with the whole idea, but then also giving lessons on how to draw Hiccup and Toothless. And then we've got scientists, computer scientists, sharing the importance of coding. For example, Trina Roy, one of the developers at Pixar, inspiring the children there with her, from her experiences. All of these available for free. And ultimately, this is what we're saying. When we're using Skype in the Classroom and we're accessing these wonderful partners, anything is possible. And imagine the impact it's going to have on these children and the difference it's going to make on their work, the improvements that we're going to see on their work. Now, you're just hearing from me. All you were doing is hearing from me. But I bet you'd like to hear from us, some other teachers. I set a challenge, not just to teachers, but to some students as well. And I asked them, if you were to summarize or describe Skype in the Classroom in 3 words, what would those 3 words be? And I let them get on with it. And then I just recorded them. Let's see some of the things that they say.
Lanny, we can't hear what they're saying.
Oh, okay. What I'll do, sorry, I thought I'd shared with the sound. Give me one moment. I will stop sharing and then I will share again. I am sorry about that. And you tell me, I will start it again and you tell me if you can hear it this time. So apologies for that.
Empowering student experts.
Yes, perfect.
Brilliant. Okay, I'll go back to that. You always think you've ticked that box, don't you? And then you realize you haven't. Right, okay, here we go.
Empowering student experts.
Understanding other cultures.
Skype in the Classroom is magical, inspiring, essential.
Always new learning.
Skype Classrooms, a classroom without walls.
Developing essential skills.
Skype in the Classroom lets us embrace new cultures.
Learning comes alive.
Better than textbooks.
Make learning useful.
Improving subject knowledge.
Imaginations go wild. I want to become a marine biologist. Now I need to know how to swim. Fun, inspiring, educational,
Outstanding fun learning.
improves our work.
Connecting with others.
Education made easy. Makes lessons awesome.
And I mean, you just listen to some of those things. The kids come alive in the lessons. There's a purpose to it. The impact it can have. I love learning comes alive. It's taking everything to the next level. And even the kids are saying, it improves my work. This is why teachers need to ensure that Skype in the Classroom is one of their tools in their teacher toolkit. They need to make sure that it's in there so that it is used appropriately and at the right time to help the pupils with their work. But how do we get started? That's the big thing. I hope right now you're looking at it saying, this is something that I'd like to start using with my kids. I'd like to get kind of more engaged. Like I'm getting ideas already, but where do I go from here? How do I become a global classroom? It is so easy and straightforward. You simply go to education.skype.com and you register. That is it. You need to make sure that you've got a good internet connection and you've got a webcam. Now, making sure that there's also a microphone available is pretty essential because you need to be able to speak to them. See, the biggest regret of my teaching career is that I didn't look into Skype in the Classroom as well as I should have. I thought that I need some elaborate webcam setup and microphone setup in my classroom, and I put it on the shelf for a long time. And as a result, a lot of my pupils missed out on these wonderful learning experiences because I did not look into it. And it was, to my shame and embarrassment, a £10 off-the-shelf webcam from a supermarket that actually unlocked the world to my kids. The first time I asked the kids, how many walls does this classroom have? I had, for some reason, I had different answers ranging from 4 to 11. I'm not quite sure where they got the 11 from. They may have been counting the pillars between windows. And after the first Skype call, I actually asked the kids, how many walls does our classroom have now? And I can still hear the boy say, our classroom doesn't have any walls now, sir. That's what it does. They no longer learn in a confined area, but they've got the world and access to them. If you go to education.skype.com/p/getting started, you'll be able to find it easy on the website. It will give you all the help and resources that you need to get started, all of the direction. Explore this wonderful website. You were able to see that on this website, you are able to filter on whether you're looking for a guest speaker, whether you're looking for a virtual field trip, whether you were looking for a classroom to connect to, as well as these wonderful collaborative projects that teachers from the world are saying, here we are, we've got this project we want to run, and we'd love you to be part of it. What a wonderful way to kind of facilitate global learning with a purpose. You can filter it on age range, you can filter it by a duration that you're looking for. And it quite simply is clicking on about half a dozen buttons and you have got that session booked. But there's more. There are wonderful resources available for the students and also for the educators. why not print off a certificate for your pupils after every Skype connection that celebrates their global learning, that it celebrates where they've been to, and get the children to calculate the distance that they have travelled in that time. In that video, you would have seen Phil, who's one of the teachers from the UK. He said about having a global classroom, and there was a map on his wall, and he had all the lines of string coming out of the UK. There's lots of teachers from across the world who will put up a map of the world, and after every single connection call, we'll put a pin in the map and register where in the world their class has visited. I'm an IT teacher. The back wall is a map in my classroom. Some people find it very strange, thinking it's a mix between geography and IT, but we've had some wonderful conversations, and the children are able to tell their parents when they come in what they learned on each flag and where they visited and who they spoke to. We've had children speaking to some of the executives at Microsoft, actually giving them advice on how they could improve their products, and talking about education and what 21st century learning should be, and as pupils, what experiences that they'd like. I mean, where else do they have opportunities like that? Pupils are also able to print off a passport so that they can have a journal of all of their learning experiences as they adventure across the world. And then for teachers, there we have the Mystery Skype resource pack that you're able to view and download for free, which will take you through how to set up a lesson, how to run it, all of the resources you may want to have as well. There's a resource pack there to help you prepare for your call. You may be worried about technology. You may think, oh, what if the call drops out? Well, if that's what happens, you do exactly the same as if you were on a call to your friend. You just hit reconnect, or you call again. That's all you do. There's nothing to worry about at all. You may be worried thinking, what happens if the conversation dries up and if my children don't talk? I have never known a session where the kids don't talk. Do not worry about a thing. Do not worry about a thing. Now, you'll notice one of the things in there says using Microsoft Teams for Skype in the Classroom. Eventually, Skype in the Classroom is going to be moving into Teams. So everything will be operated from within that. So it's worthwhile making preparations to move into Teams so that your children have access to these wonderful, wonderful opportunities, because there is nothing else like it out there, nor is it being offered by anyone else either. CPD is always good as well, isn't it, for teachers? And at education.microsoft.com, there are some wonderful online courses available that can help you get to grips with Skype in the Classroom and understand just how powerful it is, whether it is an introduction to it, whether it is looking at supporting social and emotional learning, whether it's looking at teaching gender equality, part of the SDGs, or whether it's teaching marine conservation and inspiring the children that way. All of these are free self-paced courses that are available at education.microsoft.com. They are about an hour long with a multiple choice quiz at the end, and will actually earn you points towards becoming recognised as a certified Microsoft Innovative Educator. There is a wonderful teacher from who we sadly lost a few years ago now, from Australia, who was a Skype master teacher. And he talked about the wonder that he saw in his children's eyes when they made these global connections. Children who lived in a remote part of Australia, and they saw the world and they met people, and he said their eyes would light up. We will enrich life immeasurably if you approach it with a sense of wonder and discovery, and always challenge yourself to try new things. As teachers, sometimes we have to take the advice that we give to the children. As teachers, we have to step out of our comfort zone to give these children these wonderful experiences, to help children to learn, to help children develop, to help equip them for the future. It takes us to step out and do something that we may be scared about or worried about. But ultimately what we find is that when we make that step, the rewards and benefits are there, and it has the ability to change lives, and we have seen it already in many of the lives of children as they've come through who've had these opportunities, how it has changed them. Mike Soskill, a teacher from Pennsylvania, USA, one of the top 10 finalists for the Global Teacher of the Year, says, how can we expect our children to change the world if we don't show it to them? Next time you stand in front of your children, ask yourself the question, am I inspiring these children to be world changers? Can we see the potential in them? If not, why aren't we seeing the potential in them? Normally it's because of something we're doing or not doing. Let's equip our children so that they believe they can change the world. Because when they believe they can change the world, they have that passion and drive to do something about it. Skype in the Classroom has the power to make that change, to help children find their voice, for them to learn about this wonderful world and inspire them for the future. I hope that it is something that come start the next academic year, you find it in your teacher toolkit. And I look forward to seeing on social media some of your names and your Skype in the Classroom adventures that you and your children have enjoyed and ultimately been enriched because of. So thank you ever so much for coming along today, and I hope you have a lovely rest of the week.
Thank you so much, Lanny. You taught us a lot.